This is Dropout Nation's Midweek Monitor. I'm Rashawn Biddle. Here are the top stories that you need to pay attention to in the world of education and school reform. As you know by now, there are plenty of postmortems about the unsuccessful recall of Scott Walker. In fact, if one looks at the numbers, Scott Walker won a higher percentage of votes in this recall than he did 2 years ago when he was elected to a full term as governor. And of course, as you know, Dropout Nation listeners and readers and watchers, Walker was challenged by the teachers' unions, the NEA, the AFT, and other public sector unions after he successfully pushed a plan that effectively ended collective bargaining for those unions and also took away their ability to forcibly collect dues from teachers and other public sector employees, whether they wanted to pay that money or not. And, you know, one can ask about the whole question of whether this election is a precursor for what's going to happen in the national presidential race. My answer is, here it is. Wisconsin's going to be a battleground state, but until Mitt Romney proves that he has a more compelling case for becoming president, President Barack Obama will probably win Wisconsin and more than likely win re-election. Just that simple. But the bigger postmortem, the bigger lessons are out there for school reformers. It's pretty simple. When you are a strong reformer, when you put a strong, compelling reform message out there, you will likely win re-election and beat back those forces, education traditionalists, teachers unions, NEA, AFT affiliates who oppose systemic reform. Walker deserves credit for standing strong on that. Now, of course, let's be real. Walker didn't stand strong on everything. In fact, he rolled back a school choice effort, expansion effort, and so from that perspective, let's be real, Walker isn't the school reformer that we all want him to be. And this is why school choice activists and others within the state are going to have to push harder the next 2 years on Walker to make sure that he expands choice and deals with issues such as other issues related to teacher quality and improving curriculum. But once again, for reformers, standing strong equals votes and wins and victories at the ballot box if you do it right. And of course, for centrist Democrat reformers, a topic that I've written about the past couple of days on Dropout Nation, there's plenty of lessons here. Let's be real. The teachers unions, NEA, AFT, are just as aware that what centrist Democrats are doing on the areas of teacher quality are just as much geared towards weakening their influence as what Walker is doing. So at the end of the day, it's time for centrist Democrats to just simply be honest about what they're doing and actually go hard and go deep. If you don't really strike at the heart of the power of NEA and AFT affiliates, which lies symbolically in collective bargaining and more substantially in the ability to collect money, ultimately we're going to have a harder time winning systemic reform. So centrist Democrats need to join up with Republicans and just go for it and do it right. Meanwhile, there's another issue. Of course, speaking of teachers unions, Martin West, Paul Peterson, and one of their colleagues has just written a piece about the issue of teachers union popularity among the public. Now, from my perspective, polls are not all that valuable, but the fact that there's huge drops, including a 16% drop among teachers about their views about the union and their favorable views about their NEA and AFT affiliates is in many ways not that shocking. The reality is for many high-quality teachers, for younger teachers, you know, on one hand, guess what? They realize the value of being a union member, but on the other hand, they realize that NEA and AFT affiliates have stood against the very reforms that would benefit their careers and benefit the children that they care about. Many of the younger teachers out there are reform-minded, and therefore they embrace some of the very tenets, including improving performance pay, adding performance pay, improving teacher evaluations, using student test score data in an evaluated form to measure how well teachers are doing over time, and essentially ending tenure and near lifetime employment so that high-quality teachers can get rewarded and low-quality teachers can get out of the profession. Now, no, let's be real. Low-quality teachers, it's not all their fault that they're in the profession. It's thanks to the NEA and AFT and also thanks to ed schools that have poorly trained them and poorly recruited them and when they shouldn't have recruited them in the first place, this is where they are. So let's be real, this is not an anti-teacher discussion. This is a reality that we have to admit that there are high-quality teachers, good to great teachers, and there are teachers who don't belong in the classroom. And the teachers out there who, especially even veterans, who are more likely to support the NEA and AFT and support tenure and support traditional pay scales, even they recognize that the system doesn't really work for them, especially when they are the ones that are doing great work and they've seen plenty of their colleagues just out there doing poorly and not doing the job right. And finally, looking at North Carolina, there's a series of reforms and school reform efforts that are going down there. Everything from effectively eliminating tenure to reading and literacy issues. But one of the bigger issues is dealing with school choice. Effectively, the state is considering a tax credit voucher sort of deal. As you know, tax credit programs basically allow for companies to sponsor students to go to private school, effectively creating vouchers, but they get a tax credit for doing so. This is a controversial issue, of course, especially even among conservatives who are generally supportive of school choice. Robert Verbruggen of National Review, who is a colleague of mine, he has been steadfastly opposed to it because from his perspective, it's really just magic and just playing around with numbers. But here's a key thing. Tax credit programs, any form of school choice is important and powerful. We must expand it and allow for kids to go out there and get a high quality education and expand opportunities for them. Well, North Carolina is looking at this. It's still a huge debate. Last year, the state did increase the cap and effectively eliminated much of the cap on charter school expansion, although some of what they've done in turn as part of it isn't exactly as good as people would like to believe. Gene Allen of the Center for Education Reform has plenty to say about it. But this time, this tax credit program is facing opposition, of course, especially from the teachers' unions and other groups out there. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Even if the legislature passes this bill, it has to still be signed and approved by Governor Beverly Perdue, a Democrat who has not been a strong school reformer, even among those who are centrist Democrats. So in all due honesty, there's a pretty good chance that this program may not see the light of day. But for those out there who are interested in learning more about it and helping out, go out there and learn more about it. Listen to the Dropout Nation podcast, especially this week's podcast on how to expand school choice by overhauling school funding and changing the mindsets of folks out there who oppose it. Also, as well, read Dropout Nation every day for your news and commentary on the reform of American public education. This is Dropout Nation. I'm Rashawn Biddle. You have a great day.